Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we still have some thunderstorm and rain warnings over the next few days as it is turning unsettled as the warm hot weather does start to break down. We'll have a look at the latest UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. As I said, we're going to see a lot more precipitation through the coming days. This upcoming working week is going to be wet, especially early on. Temperatures aren't going to be too bad as the upper air temperatures actually still remain slightly above average. So where we see some sunshine, some dry conditions, it won't actually be all too bad. But for some, those drier, sunnier conditions could be few and far between. And then we'll have a look at the longer range, looking at the latest GFS, GM, ECMWF, and the ensembles, as that sort of pattern of slightly above average and unsettled conditions does look likely to dominate the middle portion of May. But as said, tentative signs of something warmer and drier toward the end of May. That's something that has been highlighted in the past few videos, and we're continuing to see that today. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. You can see at the moment we have got lots of thunderstorms taking off throughout this afternoon and evening, especially in the west. Perhaps not as widespread as anticipated yesterday, especially the Orone run had some of these storms developing further eastwards as well, whereas they look primarily here in the west, but they are intense, and they're as intense, if not more intense, than forecasted where they have occurred. See, there's kind of three main clusters. There's this cluster up towards northwest England, North Wales, and the West Midlands that did form over southwest England, drifting through Bristol, Cardiff kind of area, further northwards, and now, as I said, into northwest England. We also had or have a cluster of thunderstorms across Scotland here, some across northern Scotland, and here across western Scotland, and also some across Northern Ireland, although the ones across Northern Ireland look like they're starting to die away now. You can see they are multi-celled systems, especially across northwest England here, with multiple large areas of pretty severe thunderstorms. You can see again kind of back building here where we've got the darker reds right on the southern tip, which shows you that they are very active and building. The models, as we'll see in a minute, do predict the storms to fall away quite quickly after sunset around 9-10 p.m. So we'll have to see if that does occur, because at the moment, still very active, still very dangerous out there. I've seen reports of potentially supercell activity, again, very difficult to verify that, but also seen reports of some very large hail and frequent lightning with this, and of course the torrential rain. It does look like the most active areas here across the border of Wales and England, and up towards northwest England here into the far, up towards the Lake District here actually, but especially down towards Liverpool, up towards Southport and Blackpool. There's a very severe line of storm activity here. That's very dark red, very high precipitation rates. Now, if you look at net weather, this is the same kind of view, just giving us maybe slightly more definition, and you can see these purples and sort of whitey colours. That's where it is extremely intense hail, most likely in there, and you can see especially towards Wales here, up towards Manchester, and just north of Liverpool. You can see the kind of extent here. We're looking at 100 millimeters plus per hour. So some of these areas, as I said, could be coming out with a good few inches of rain. And the best thing about the net weather is we can see the lightning strikes. Now, they don't always update very swiftly. Sometimes there's a bit of a delay here, but all the oranges and reds have all been in the last 10 or 20 minutes. There's a little bit of lag on this map because of the extent of the lightning strikes. There's a lot of data here, but it looks like as though the most active storms are the ones north of Liverpool and around Liverpool towards Manchester, one out here towards the far northwest England, south of Liverpool, the one in Wales, and a few lightning strikes in the West Midlands. These look like the most active storms at the moment. You can see where we've had historic lightning strikes, the blues and purples, the last sort of hour or so. Again, not picking up on every lightning strike, but just showing you pretty severe indeed. So us putting out quite well, yeah, kind of a forecast out a good few days ago. It is warranted given the intensity of these storms at the moment. If we do try and zoom out, hopefully it doesn't lag too much. You can see active storms across Scotland, maybe not as widespread and as intense, but still fairly active. And you can see lightning strikes in quite a few of these cells in the past 20 minutes. And it does look like across Northern Ireland, the storms have dissipated away now, but definitely very active area of storms here across northwest England. Now, apart from the storms today, it's actually been very warm in the east, especially across the East Midlands, down towards central southern England. Temperatures, as around 6:30 as I'm recording this, still in the mid-20s. Again, we're not looking at any ridiculous temperatures today, but for sort of early to middle of May, it has been very warm indeed this kind of last 5 or 6 days. Definitely warmer than we anticipated a week or two ago. We thought low 20s, but as the sort of event has got closer, those temperatures have been adjusted up from 22, 23 degrees as the peak a week ago perhaps, to seeing around 27 or 28 today. I've seen unofficial reports of 28 degrees, but again, if we go over into net weather, these are the official weather station reports. You can see widely 25 to a rounded 27. But as I said, most likely other local areas have got up towards 27 or 28. So the prediction we made a few days ago of the top temperature around that 27, 28 degree mark has been fairly accurate, and the models have done pretty well in this sort of scenario. Again, maybe later on Met Office might put out an official statement saying the top temperature they have recorded. This doesn't include every station, but definitely ballpark today in that mid to high 20s point. If you do go over to the weather warnings now, though, as we do have extensive warnings continuing through this evening into Monday and Tuesday for thunderstorms initially and then turning to rain. Now, we've got a thunderstorm warning across Northern Ireland. We won't look at this at all as it expires in around 10 minutes' time. We've got a thunderstorm warning issued across much of Western England into Wales, and you can see how this warning is very widespread. We have seen severe thunderstorms within this, but not all areas in here have seen severe thunderstorms, let alone even rain. Just showing you sometimes that these big thunderstorm warnings are just sort of covering the risk. Doesn't necessarily you're definitely going to see thunderstorms because of the pop-up nature and convective nature of these systems. So very severe thunderstorms in here, especially down sort of the central area of this warning zone, but some areas to the west of this, to the east, and most likely to the north of this main cluster at the moment might not see much, as it is likely to dissipate in the coming hours. So you can see this expires at 11 p.m. You can see it has been adjusted to remove parts of South and Southwest England and West Wales, while including more of Northern England. Period of validity has been delayed by an hour, whilst the likelihoods of impacts have been increased. So the overnight runs have increased the risk with this and increased the likelihood. So yeah, definitely a pretty decent warning here. And again, could be some decent activity all the way through to around 10 at 11 p.m. But as I said, around that sunset point, 9 p.m. or so, they should be starting to decay away. And then we've got this warning across Scotland until 3 a.m. Again, the instability is pushed further northwards. Again, this has been updated and it has been extended further eastwards, and end time brought forward by an hour. Not too severe across Scotland, but as we saw a minute ago, there are very heavy rain, periods of very heavy rain around, and a few active cells within this. So again, do stay safe around that central belt into western Scotland. Into Monday, we've still got a thunderstorm warning issued across western Scotland there through the early hours, and then we've got rain warnings from midday until 6 a.m. for eastern Northern Ireland. Spells of rain, heavy across eastern areas, will push northwards across much of Northern Ireland on Monday before clearing on Wednesday. On Tuesday, sorry, we're looking at 15 to 30 millimetres, maybe as much as 15 to 60 millimetres across some higher ground areas, high or medium likelihood and lower impact. Again, we're not looking at any thundery rain with this. It is a weather front pushing in as we see a proper transition. And then we've got other warning zones here across South Wales and generally southwest England from 8 a.m. tomorrow until midnight. And again, heavy rain likely to bring some travel disruption, 20-30 millimetres widely, maybe 40-50 millimetres over some hills. Again, medium impact, low likelihood, sorry. And then into Tuesday, just that warning across eastern Northern Ireland. So transitioning from pretty explosive storms at the moment towards something a little bit more mundane, but miserable nonetheless, of some moderate to heavy rain into tomorrow. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, you can see those storms breaking out through this afternoon into the evening, becoming pretty extensive, probably getting in there sort of, or in terms of their widespread nature, becoming most significant around that 7-8 p.m. point. So probably by the time this video is put out, this is when we're seeing the peak intensities. But you can see around the 9-10 p.m. point, we start to see those darker reds disappear from the showers, which indicates the intensity is starting to drop. And around 10-11 p.m, we start to see those showers really decay away, still lasting maybe into Scotland, but really by 1 or 2 a.m, pretty much completely gone. And then we start to see heavy rain pushing in from the southwest, and this gives us our yellow warnings for tomorrow. Lots of widespread heavy rain, moderate in places, but it's going to be a soaker here for many through much of Monday. Maybe the Far East could hold off, and we'll see temperatures in a minute could get up into the low 20s again as we hold on to dry conditions for a little bit, but eventually rain will sweep in for all as it clears through Tuesday. And then much Tuesday is kind of thick cloud with showers around, and then into Wednesday again a few showers around, maybe even some thunderstorms in places, but it's actually much more of a drier day as we start to see those weather fronts clear and just generally more of a low pressure field with loads of showers. And the same can be said for Thursday. Again, showers, thunderstorms developing, but no prolonged areas of rain. As I said, we're just in a very showery kind of flow here. If you look at the max temperatures now, you can see temperatures predicted up towards 25, 26, so fairly accurate, around at 27. We've seen on net weather, most likely slightly higher in a few spots. Into tomorrow, temperatures could peak around the 22, 23 degree mark in the east or northeast, or we hold on to a bit of sunshine tomorrow, but most will be cooler, but still quite a few in that 20 degree range. Still feeling fairly pleasant, just not quite as warm as it's been the last sort of 3 or 4 days. Into Tuesday, it still could be warm in places, 18 to 20 degrees, but trending back towards average for many into the mid-teens. But again, this will all depend on shower activity and cloud amounts. Into Wednesday, could creep up towards 20 to 22. As said, the upper air temperatures still remain average to slightly above average, which is allowing these slightly warmer temperatures, but we are likely to see showers. Wherever those showers do occur, it's likely to be cooler. And then finally into Thursday, again 20 to maybe 22 degrees once again. So actually, this upcoming week doesn't look too bad. It still is going to be fairly warm, temperatures around the low 20s at best, or high teens, but it's just going to be the fact there's going to be more cloud around, stronger winds, and quite a few showers and prolonged areas of rain early in the week. Now, if we do move over to the GFS and have a look at that medium to longer range, you see the low pressure moving in over the next 24 hours. That's going to give us our unsettled conditions, at least early on in the week. The low pressure starts to fill in and the isobars spread out, and that's why we just generally see a showery feel with very little movement around, which means once the weather front clears, it's unlikely to come back. And that's why Wednesday, Thursday at the moment looks showery, but many areas quite a bit more sunshine, as we are still under lower pressure, but we're not seeing any major movement in those weather fronts and air masses. Eventually the low pressure does push away and we start to see some high pressure build in, but around that day 7 range we still have a bit of a cut-off low in the Bay of Biscay towards France, which could still allow showers or thunderstorms to occur. Beyond that, we still see low pressure trying to nudge in, but then we start to see those positive signs of some higher pressure building in. Now here it looks pretty decent, upper air temperatures actually rising to above average, but you can still see there is some lower pressure sat out towards the Bay of Biscay in France and northern Spain, which could cause problems of showers and storms. We're going to have to really keep a close eye on it. As you can see here, lots of showers and storms developing. If it's sat further southwards, then we could just be under warm high pressure, and that low pressure can actually aid warmer air masses to push it away. But if it's where it is or slightly further northwards, it does bring the risk of more storms in the south, warm, but more storms in the south. So it could keep it unsettled. But definitely positive trends in the longer term. Low pressure doesn't look like it's going to be parked over the top of us, and the pressure generally looks like it will be rising. If we compare to the GM, again, low pressure moving in over the next day or so, eventually squeezed away as high pressure does build in, and that looks fairly positive towards day 10, but again, still low pressure sat 2 hours south. Here it's much further southwards, and we do draw in some warm air from the southeast. Look at the intense heat here across much of North Africa towards the Mediterranean. If we did see a proper southerly, couldn't even rule out low to mid 30s if we saw some of that air get drawn our way. But at the moment, we're unlikely to see anything that hot. You can see it is a heat wave across much of North Africa there. But here, we're just generally pretty warm. We zoom in, temperatures into the low to maybe even mid-20s. So looking again pretty positive at day 10 from the GEM. If compared to the ECMWF, again, low pressure moving in at the moment, high pressure slowly building in the longer term, and looking pretty positive. That low pressure is to our west or southwest, but it's not influencing us at all, really. So we actually stay well away from all that rain. You can see here it's all out in the Atlantic. And you can see here, warm air mass, pretty decent indeed, and we can probably zoom in and have a look at those 2-meter temperatures in daytime into the low 20s. So you can see all three runs around that day 10 onwards actually look pretty decent. High pressure building back in, but the only bit I'm a bit sceptical of is what happens to that little low that looks like it could be being pushed out of the Atlantic. It doesn't look like it's going to be heading our way, but it could sit to our south. The ECMWF not interested in that, keeping out in the Atlantic. GEM does push it to our south, but much further southwards. The GFS keeps it to our south, but much closer by, bringing the risk of more showers and storms. So yes, looks very positive in the longer term. But if that low does push our way, then it could quickly go downhill once again with showers and storms, even though it might be pretty warm. Now, if you finish by looking at the latest ensembles, the latest GFS are just coming out at the moment. Only goes out towards the sort of 24th of May here, but you can see warm at the moment, trending back towards average, but actually staying a degree or two above average. Precipitation fairly high the next week, but up and down, so there will be some drier periods. And in the longer term, precipitation does remain fairly high. And the reason for that is because we have got variable pressure. Definitely dropping pressure a lot at the moment. That's why we're seeing thunderstorms and showers and rain tomorrow. But then pressure slowly rising in the longer term. But because of that low to our south, we still could see relatively high pressure, but still plenty of showers. So it's be something to keep an eye on. 2 meter temperatures don't actually look all too bad. High teens or touching 20 degrees looks highly probable over the course of the next week or so, and possibly even higher than that. So actually not too bad on the temperature front, but it's just that we're going to see a return of rainfall. If you do have a look at the ECMWF, again, broadly very similar, generally around average or above average. Precipitation looks fairly high over the next week or so, but it does look fairly showery. And then longer term, still pretty considerable precipitation. For the rise in pressure that we are likely going to see, it does show you that the majority of ECMWF ensemble members, even though we do see a rise in pressure, keeps that low pressure nearby, especially for London and generally southern areas, which could mean we could still see plenty of showers. So we have to keep a very close eye on that in the longer term. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe out there if you're affected by any of your thunderstorms through this evening, or generally the heavier rain through tomorrow. And I'll see you again for another video soon.